Group, the Earl of Dartmouth, for a minute and a half.
President, this directive is one of a series whose total effect is that every citizen and resident of the United Kingdom is subject to being carted off to jail in other European countries. Whether the country is Portugal in the case of Gary Mann or Hungary in the case of two southwestern constituents, there is simply not the same legal protection for the individual as pertains in the United Kingdom, whatever illusions have been peddled in this chamber. Therefore, this translation directive is a fig leaf. It is trying to stick plaster over the near decapitation of Britain's hard-won liberties at the hand of the European Arrest Warrant. I would note that even in its own terms, this directive is flawed. The decision as to what is relevant for translation lies largely with the prosecutor. Moreover, there is a chronic and absolute shortage of translators and interpreters, not least because the institutions of the European Union absorb so many. Our distinguished colleague, Baroness Ludford, has characterised herself many times as a campaigner for human rights. I would ask the lady, therefore, just this once, to put aside her obsession for a federal Europe and join our campaign to repeal the European Arrest Warrant. That is what matters.
A request from the Earl of Dartmouth that you accept a question from him. Can you tell me if you will accept the question? Mrs. Romero Lopez. Mrs. Romero Lopez. Mrs. Romero Lopez, there is a question for you from the Earl of Dartmouth. Will you accept it? There is a question for you from the Earl of Dartmouth. Will you accept it? Thank you. The Earl of Dartmouth, you have 30 seconds.
That citizens in countries with much higher standards of individual rights, for example the United Kingdom, are subjected to the much lower standards of individual rights prevalent in other European countries under the European Arrest Warrant and the other European Justice directives. Has that occurred to you?
Well, I would imagine that question is questioning the minimum standards that are provided for all member states, but obviously each member state can move beyond those standards and have higher standards, and that obviously is the intention of all of the member states. We're trying to build a Europe where we live in an area where we have some minimums applying across all of the member states. But of course, with the historic traditions of your countries and so many other countries making up Europe, I'm absolutely convinced that these standards will increase all the time.